Folks, hello and welcome to Tavern Chat. I am Eric Tenkar, your daily host. With me is none other than Scott Griffin. Scott, welcome back.
Thank you for having me again.
Well, you were here exactly a week ago. I don't know. Maybe we'll start doing this stuff like on a weekly basis. Um, Folks, we're going to be almost halfway through this phone call when we wrap up today, and the reason why is because we're commenting on it. I don't think you want an hour-long phone call to be commented on and be a 3-hour-long episode. I wouldn't listen to that shit. Okay, and not for nothing. I'm gonna be. I'm in my 50s. My bladder doesn't have that much control. I certainly won't last 4 hours. So we're gonna this. I'm gonna predict to come in around 15 to 20 minutes. Um, Maybe if you're lucky, if you're somebody listening at home who's desperate to know if and where you are mentioned, maybe I'll put like timestamps in the actual show notes so you don't have to listen to the whole thing. It's really only one person that gets mentioned. But if you already, folks, by the way, we are replaying the last 90 seconds of audio from the prior recording episode because there's something that needs to get highlighted that I totally honestly missed the first couple of times I listened to this. But once you hear it, you don't miss it again. And I want to make sure we hear it. So without further ado, and Scott, as always, if there's a part you want to comment on, just tell me and I'll pause.
Will do.
Because I might miss shit.
Justin is Justin, and I just, he is who he is, and I understand that, and I appreciate that, but I don't agree with a lot of the things that he does. I don't agree with a lot of the things that he says, and I think he is damaging your...
Now, that's the part I had not really heard clearly the first couple of times I listened. He is abrasive. Now, that wasn't you didn't say like, Ernie, he's abrasive, and you go, yes, he's abrasive. He volunteered this on his own as a definition of Justin's way of dealing with people.
Correct. I think when everybody hears this call in totality, how many ever episodes this ends up being, it's going to be crystal clear that Ernie knows exactly who Justin is. He knows exactly how Justin conducts himself. And even though Ernie says he attempts to get Justin to take posts down or use different language on social media or things like that, Ernie is still there and he's still complicit in this. And he doesn't deserve any kind of a pass because he totally knows what's going on. And he's okay with that.
Yeah, because he's getting his dream. I mean, folks, a little bit behind the scenes stuff. Even his brother Luke called him out earlier this week on Facebook because he's Ernie's been trying to do the tap dance of, well, I don't necessarily agree, but I don't get into politics. I just want a game, and I'm a volunteer. By the way, I think we get to this in this part where he tries to offer you a share of the business, but now on Facebook, Ernie is saying that he's only a volunteer. He's only a volunteer. He's not a vested interest. So you are basically being offered a percentage of nothing, I guess, because.
Well, there's either there's two options when you look at it. Either Ernie offered me shares, quote unquote, in a business that he has no monetary investment in, and he also offered me shares of someone else in that business without even talking to them, or he's invested no money in that, as he states. He is completely and totally a volunteer, and then he was offering me bupkis. So right. It's got to be one of those two.
You too can be a volunteer.
Yeah, you too. Volunteer now that TSR Nerd and Hobby Shop is in the sights of Wizards of the Coast. No longer executive vice president, I guess. Now he's.
Well, it's interesting that that you kind of talked about it that way, because as my consolation prize, if you will, originally, before this all kind of went the way that it has, and I moved out of state, I was basically offered a position as Jeff Leeson's assistant at the hobby shop.
Ooh. So
a volunteer position, of course.
Of course, because so you could be offered a position to volunteer time to get. Oh, so you could have freely been associated with this company for no benefit other than bad publicity.
Yes.
That's always the selling point when it comes to me trying to volunteer my time. I want to go with the company that nobody likes. And,
right.
All right.
I think he is damaging your brand, and I think he is damaging your new company. And that I told you in one of our final exchanges via Messenger that was the reason why I had stayed away from the hobby shop. That's the reason why I was keeping my distance, is because I could not support him. I could not support him and his abrasiveness, him being rude, him being ruthless.
A bully, even. Now, I'm going to throw something out there, and I think we've had this discussion because we are both retired members of law enforcement, which kind of makes you a student of human nature, or somebody who gets to read people. That's like a spontaneous utterance. And that wasn't prompted. That was Ernie filling in the blanks because he felt he needed to. I am quite sure, because even earlier today, I've seen the everything that's coming out of certain people, likely referring to me, about people associated with TSR and Dungeon Hobby Shop Museum are lies. These are lies. Now, this isn't a lie, but I'm sure the narrative is going to be, oh, Ernie is so smart. He is such a genius. He knew this phone call was being recorded, and Ernie knew that you get excited if you threw Justin under the bus. That's giving Ernie credit, which he's never earned in his life before, honestly. So, but I'm sure there's going to be a claim.
Oh, right. I agree. That will be a claim. And this was something that happened relatively quickly and with little planning. Like I said, I had Ernie blocked on Messenger and on Facebook, and I had some other people blocked. I unblocked them, and I reached out to Ernie, and I think it might have even have been Ernie's suggestion to talk if I was willing to, and bing bang boom, it was done, and we were on the phone. And I think I said before, my intention of recording this call was I had never planned on releasing it. My intention for recording the call was because Ernie can have a difficult time remembering things, remembering what he said, remembering what he's promised, remembering, details. And that was the reason that I recorded it, because, again, you bring receipts.
Yeah.
If you didn't write it down, if there isn't a documentation for it, it didn't happen. So I wanted to make sure that for posterity's sake, I had something where I could go back and say, listen, do you remember saying this? And when he said no, well, here, let me play it for you.
Well, even he says, when you listen to his call, there are many points where he goes, I don't remember promising that, but I may have.
Right.
I'm a bit chaotic. It's possible. So yeah, no, all right. Well, let's continue on.
Yes, and I'm sorry, but just as people have pointed out, as a businessman, if people have questions about your new business or your new product, you don't attack them. You explain and give them information. And all he does is he goes on the attack right away. Did the same thing with me.
Yes. Yes, he does.
Again, I mean, that's... And I'm not going to put any other words in Ernie's mouth, but he sounds frustrated. I hear a lot of...
The Darth Vader sound.
Yeah, Ray's just pointing out in the background. The Darth Vader sounds... You know, as you make statements that are about Justin, you can hear frustration. That's my interpretation.
I believe. Yeah, I believe that was complete and total. He wanted to be anywhere else, but on that phone call, confronting what the truths actually were.
Right.
You know, there was no way to talk his way out of that. There was no way to kind of play along the edges. You know, you can just hear how almost exhausted he sounds. And there's a lot of different times where he kind of just almost wants to get out of it with, okay, well, are we just to assume that the friendship is done and I screwed it up and there's nothing that can fix it? And kind of like he wanted to be done with it. He wanted to be anywhere but being confronted with that and having to deal with it.
It's just pretty insightful. All right, let's return.
And I've been trying to fight fires behind him, and now somehow I've got things that have been cut out and trying to say that I'm trying to hate all gay people or something. And
Ernie, I gotta tell you, watching that video, you know, I know the type of person that you are, and I can take things in context. But I have to tell you, everything, well, I don't want to say everything, a lot of things that are coming out of the new TSR are very tone deaf to what is going on in the world. And this whole thing that you brought up about WotC and about wokeness and about people being, you know, old grognards and the older players being compared to racists and all that kind of stuff. Ernie, I know you had the best intentions in mind, but it is so tone deaf to what is going on in the world and what is going on with inclusive gaming. You better believe you're going to take some blowback on it. You better believe it, man. And I know you. I know you didn't intend it that way because you tell it like it is, you know.
yeah.
But you got to remember, it's not 1974 anymore. And while people love old gaming, I mean, look at the OSIR and all of that other kind of stuff. People don't want a game with folks who have those antiquated ideas and have those antiquated beliefs. That's just the way of the world now.
I like the sound of the birds in the background.
And that was like a great escape. Like, he didn't want to address what you just said. So the birds were the perfect escape. I've encountered that in interviews that I've conducted while working, and it's just like, oh yeah, that truck driving by, that 18-wheeler, yeah, it was pretty loud, yeah, but that has nothing to do with what we're talking about. But it's a chance to regroup and hopefully get ahead of the conversation. Again, my experience. I'm sure it mirrors your experiences in law enforcement, but just an observation.
Right. He is a master of deflection, and that is obviously from years and years of, you know, honing that technique. But you know, when I was on, we were taught there were phrases to redirect somebody back to the, you know, I appreciate that, but I understand that, but I
verbal
hear
judo.
you, but exactly, Dr. George Thompson, exactly.
Yep.
It redirects their redirection and gets you right back to the argument instead of being sidetracked with some other gobbledygook.
And now we're going to hear some stuff about birds, folks. But this is it's important for the context, obviously, because, you know, it shows you that this was not a conversation. Even that Ernie wouldn't be doing this if he thought he was I'm being recorded. Let me
Mm.
let me talk about the birds.
The
You can hear Oliver here too.
Yeah,
I'm getting into this.
the cockatoo is he has a very strong personality. Let's say I've been bit a few times, and he and I are getting better. We're getting much better, but he has a very strong personality.
Yes.
Frustration's still there.
Oh, Donna's coming home. That's the dog's doing it. I feel lost at anything that with you having any pain.
Well, and I feel lost with feeling like I have to exclude you and Duck and Donna and all those other folks from my life, and I feel lost because I truly felt that you guys were honest friends.
Right.
You know,
we're friends. We're not necessarily geniuses, because obviously I've hurt you in a big way, and that is not at all what you know. I have. I don't know what else. I'm sorry, but that doesn't change a goddamn thing for you, does it?
And he was hoping that one word would make this all go away, right? I guess that's. I mean, if I say I'm sorry, I'm absolved of my sins, makes everything okay. We're back to where we were, right? I'm sorry I fucked you over because I wasn't at all worried about you or concerned about you. I was thinking about me. So I'm sorry. I feel bad that I screwed you over. I mean, that's really what it comes down to, I think.
Yeah, those magic words. Again, I think he was sorry that he was caught, or his actions put him in the place that they did, because it was causing him to have to confront some things he really didn't want to confront. I don't know if he was actually apologetic for the way he had conducted himself or what he had done, because I would venture to say, if you went and talked to Ernie today, he would still have no issue with doing things the way that he did. That during the Geek Nations tour in 2017, he just happened to mention to the group, and you see how that changed from just mentioning it to Justin to mentioning it to the group.
That makes it better. Come on.
Yes, right. And that's how everything started. I don't think would see a problem with that.
You're probably right. Now, what's going to come up, folks, is a little emotional. And Scott, huge props to you for allowing this to be heard. But again, I think that this goes to a long way to show, first off, that you weren't recording this with any kind of premeditation, aside from making sure that Ernie would remember his own words.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure that Ernie was not going through this phone call with the idea that, oh, I'm just going to say things that will make Scott happy, because he wasn't. But and I'm going to go through this phone call with the assumption that I'm likely being recorded, which, again, so.
I appreciate the apology. I do. But I just don't know. At this very moment, I'm such a ball of emotion and of everything else that I don't know what to do with this. I mean, I've contemplated, seeking an attorney in Wisconsin and thinking about, those kinds of things. I've thought about, going into the bottle and doing other things that I shouldn't think about.
Fuck no.
And I will say, this is one of the points in this phone call where Ernie is sounding honestly engaged and honest. It's an honest response. And I give credit where it is, because he can relate to that kind of frustration, and it suddenly becomes a bit more personal for him when you brought that up.
Yeah, you're right. I think it became, at that point, I think that was when he was the most honest, because it was something that he could understand. It was something he could relate to. And when I met Ernie in 2015, I met him, he was still drinking. So, I went through him, coming to his newfound sobriety and meeting his fiance and starting his new life. So yeah, I think he understood that. That was like one of the first things he understood.
No, and that it's important, but it doesn't stick. That's
No.
bad.
No, that doesn't work. No, God damn it. So you're having major stress issues right now.
This has been one of the biggest hits that I have had to deal with since the crash. I mean, it has been extremely hard to think about you going and doing these things with Justin without even taking me into consideration. And I don't know how to think about that. I don't know what to do about that.
Can I see if Jeff and I can water down our own portions and possibly get you involved in this as another partner, if we can? But you don't like Justin, so that I don't know. I'm making a real offer here.
He's making a real offer here. He's offering his shares and Duck's shares to you.
And please, again, remember, at this point, Jeff doesn't even have any kind of an idea, unless he and Jeff talked about this beforehand, but I highly doubt it. He's offering shares of Jeff's without his knowledge or his consent. I think that's very telling. I think Ernie is, at this point, willing to do just about anything for this phone call, for this conversation to be done with.
Oh, definitely. And folks, we're about ending we're coming near the end for today.
Some way I could take like 9% of my 24 or something like that. Jeff can, or if we're willing, I don't even know if he is, but I mean, and somehow get you involved on the team, or is that just?
I don't want you guys to have to water down your portions of the work that you're going to do. But Justin and I...
It's not really work, but it's rewards at some point, too.
Understandable. And I'm not afraid of hard work because of, everything you and I have talked about and everything that I've done and was planning to do with the resurrection of the hobby shop. And I'm not afraid of that. I don't... If you're serious about that, I think I would have to be like a silent partner, or I would have to deal with things through you and through Jeff. I don't think Justin and I would be able to get along.
I'm gonna pause it right there because it very shortly it's going to get into Ernie talking about medical conditions or issues for other members of the TSR team at the time. It's relevant in the context of Ernie had no idea this call was being recorded, and also Ernie has very little what's the word I'm looking for? Any concern about talking about discretion? Thank you, Rach. He has no discretion about talking about private matters that deal with others. He's like, I'm going to throw this out there and let it. Maybe it'll distract. I guess I don't know. But I figured that offer is a perfect point, though, for us to step away for a few days before we turn.
TSR needs to do a little info kind of shop thing in-house on HIPAA law and disclosure of information. And
oh, God.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, hey, guess what? Guess who's taking what? No, dude.
Mm-hmm.
And again, at the time, and maybe no longer, but at the time, Ernie was, theoretically at least, executive vice president of TSR. That was the
Hmm.
title that was announced on various articles with, or I should say, press releases that came out about TSR. Weren't really press releases, but whatever, came out from the company. So, um, you think that if
Correct.
you were an officer of the company, you would not be speaking about such details outside the company. So,
Well, I just, as a closing kind of
yeah,
remark, I just think that that kind of lends credence to, um, you know, anybody who knows Ernie or who's known Ernie for a bit knows that he loves to talk. And he loves to talk without really thinking about things first or putting it
no,
through a filter.
no, no
And
filter. Yeah,
that was that was a perfect example of him just, bleh, putting that verbal pablum out there, and he didn't even think about what he was doing, how it could affect anybody he was talking about, or anything like that. That's just how Ernie is.
I mean, not necessarily a bad thing if you're just a personality in gaming. Not a great thing if you are. I'm going to use air quotes and ranking officer of a corporation or limited liability corporation. Yeah,
Right. I mean, it was much different when those conversations were happening in his living room, while we were watching television and, playing with Casey, the dog.
right.
It's very different than if he's doing that during an interview or if he's doing that, yeah, as an executive vice president or
Right.
whatever.
He's offering you shares of the company. Oh, and by the way, these people have these issues. I
Right.
God only knows. Well, again, Scott, thank you, and again, thank you for sharing stuff that I mean. Let's be honest. It's awkward to share stuff that's emotional to ourselves, and I really do appreciate you doing so.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity. Again, like we kind of touched on last time, the reason I came to you with this and even considered going, public, quote unquote, with it was because I thought it really helped the discussion in
Right.
overall kind of totality about TSR in general and about Ernie, his culpability, and these arguments that are going on out there that really they don't hold water, and
Right.
it's being demonstrated by his actions, and repeated actions.
Yeah. So, I mean, folks, we're not doing any of this stuff to embarrass anybody. We're
Mm-mm.
doing this to bring out the truth. Okay, and oftentimes the truth is it's painful.
Mm.
It's not an easy process, and it is not necessarily a very um, neat process, right? I mean, again, we've got to take actions on our end to protect private information of people that was being shared uh,
Mm.
for no other reason than to be having a conversation about them, I guess. And I've had folks ask me, "Can you release this whole phone call?" No, because it's stuff that really should not be released to the public. I'm
Right.
making sure about that.
Right.
Um, Folks, as always, we're in the midst of the world of the pandemic. You're all adults, theoretically. Use your common sense. All right? Not your father. I'm not going to tell you what to do. Other than that, live stream tomorrow night, 8 p.m. I'm not sure if we have a special guest or not for Mike and I. We may. I have no idea. There's a lot. I hear a dog, or sounds like our dog jumping off the bed and her nails hitting the floor. Um,
Correct.
See, yeah. I'm a student of more than just human nature. Folks, be safe, be well, God bless. Roll those dice, roll them well. Here a tease, folks. See this dice bag? That came from a box, a dungeon crawl box. So
Nice. Very nice.
that'll be coming up in a day or two. All right, folks. I'll catch you all later. Thank you, Scott.